Let's now look at how we bring all those principles and teas together and finally serve customer. We have a number of different ways of serving tea or preparing and serving tea to our customer at a tea bar, but let's start with the most popular, our teh tier. Now, you need hot water. We talked about water, and the one other thing you need apart from good water is water that has been boiled ideally in a kettle. Now, I know that in a lot of restaurants and hotels, that's not very feasible. But one thing I would like to ask you, if you do take water from an urn or from any other industrial water boiling apparatus, please try to make sure the water hasn't been in a continuous boil. The reason for this is we explained a little while ago the fact that water is not just water. It contains a certain complex combination of natural chemical elements and compounds. Well, in continuously boiling or boiling the water more than once, those elements, the carbon dioxide, the dissolved gases, are lost, as a result of which you would end up with a somewhat metallic taste, and you would compromise the ability of the water to extract flavor, aroma, strength, and antioxidants. You would end up with a pretty bad cup of tea. So let's try for the ideal. If you're presenting your customers with a special tea, and if you're taking a reasonable margin from that tea, which you should, because the customer is prepared to pay a fair price for a good tea, then I think it is worth taking the trouble to offer that intelligent tea experience, explaining the tea, enhancing the customer's satisfaction through knowledge that this is something more than just a cup of tea, but also by using a kettle, critical to treating your water right and combining the tea and the water in the most perfect manner. The teh tier comes in this style. It has its own little cozy, which has Velcro fasteners. The purpose of this is twofold. Firstly, to protect the teh tier whilst in transport, because it is mainly composed of glass. And secondly, when you present the teh tier to a customer in a cold environment, if the weather is particularly cold, remember that when drinking tea, he or she would probably wait a while, chat a while, and you're in no position to tell that customer, hurry up and drink your tea. Simply place the Velcro fastened tea cozy on the teh tier and ask your customer to relax for a few minutes. But remember, no longer than 5 minutes, because the tea would start to stew. So it's a simple process. We're using Nuera Elia Peco, a light high-grown tea, and remembering that a standard teaspoonful of Nuera Elia Peco would give us 2.9 grams of tea, and remembering the principles of dosing that we just discussed, we would take just under a teaspoon. In order to prepare the teh tier, you completely remove the plunger, opening the inner lid and opening the foil pouch. You would remove slightly under a heaped teaspoonful of Nuera Elia Peco. And when topping it up, you should remember that when you reinsert the plunger, you would add certain volume to what is inside, and therefore you should provide for that. And we recommend that up to 3/4 of the teh tier, which gives you in the region of 300 milliliters of liquid. So you would bring it up to the required level, 3/4, approximately 300 milliliters. Give it a stir. Replace your plunger with the plunger at its topmost level and wait for a couple of minutes. Now, again, please remember the guidelines for each tea. In this case, our Nuera Elia Peco would be just right after approximately 3 minutes. If the customer likes something a little stronger, he or she should have the ability to extend that time to 4 minutes. Now, in the time required for brewing, a waiter could possibly go and take the tea to a customer and either use that time to talk through a few pointers on the history of tea, the heritage of this particular tea, the characteristics, why it is light, why it is called Nuarelia, where Nuarelia is, or if you're in a particularly busy time, you could always leave the tea and tell the customer, please hold on for another 2 minutes if you would like a medium strength cup, or 3 minutes for a strong cup. And then at a certain point, you would come to readiness, where the tea would have brewed for 3 minutes and would be ready for consumption. And at that point, simply plunge the infuser, at which point the tea is compressed in the base, and then the tea is ready for consumption. It's simply poured out and ready to be enjoyed.